Well, hello and welcome back to Show Me the Money Rugby League TV. It is the full 80 minutes with myself, Mick the Game Caller Gledhill. We've got Craig the King, Show Me the Money Harrison. We've got Jimmy Mack, and we've got Joe, who looks like a little naughty petulant child at the end there, laughing and smiling with his arms folded.
He's been a bit miserable this morning, but his eyes are...
Did he lose at paddle?
He lost at paddle.
I can tell it's a paddle.
I had to carry him yesterday. It were a hard carry, I'll be honest with you.
But more calories yesterday than I have all year, Mick.
Wow.
Running around for that man. That's the way.
I even had to put a little bit on Insta, Mick, just to get his up a bit. I put a little bit of his magic, St. Joe magic, and Frankie said they were a lot better last night.
we've not been. We've got to offer an apology to the loyal viewers, the loyal listeners. We've not done one for a while, but we are back. It's almost like we've had the sort of mid-season break. Craig and Joe have been on the, what was it, 8-9 grand holiday to Greece.
Not me, mate.
Not Joe, and just on that, Michael, it's all.
The
I'm sure it's
lovely.
yeah, lovely. But on that, Sam, the producer, it's you's been cancelling the shows. Us three have been available. I think 9 out of the 12 that you've.
There was 2. I've been travelling. I've been to Italy, Sicily, Portugal, Spain, France. I've been here, there, everywhere. I've had a few day trips up to Scotland, to Wales. Yeah,
just have to look at your salary on this show for that. There's a little bit of.
Just wait to get.
Do you know what, Mick? I just done Oasis at the weekend in Cardiff, and I didn't want to mention this with present company. Jimmy gets a little bit agitated. Joe's a little bit jealous.
Well, to be fair, you might as well break it to Jimmy now. He's not on table at Headingley for Ashes game.
Kick him while he's down.
I'm trying to think how we've gone from Oasis to that, but anybody who's got a chance to go.
No one's got a chance to go. That's the whole point of it.
Let me finish. Whoever got the chance to go has got tickets. It's the greatest show on earth. It's the best gig I've been, and I've been to about 60 now. I call it a gig.
Is it?
Painful.
I actually put an hat on, Mick. This is true. I put an hat on with flowers on, and I got about 5 things going. Typical Oasis first time thinking buying hats outside of the ground. There's 75,000.
Is that what they were saying to you?
Yeah, they were having a bit of a go. Now, what I actually put them right with, I got that when I toured my 3rd tour of Glastonbury. I bought that hat, so it's been to plenty of places. A little bit of jealous of me, but seriously, Jimmy did say a guy called, I've never been big on him, my friends have, Richard Ashcroft, the Verb, but he was sensational. Absolutely.
I've seen the video.
And I realised I'm going to have a go at you here.
Wow.
Spit some of your fashion sense. When I first met you, you had like jeans and you looked a little bit like
Indie.
Richard Ashcroft. You were actually going for that look.
He was my idol.
I know it. I actually said, I've just realised Jimmy's...
It's not a revelation. That's not
anyone who listens.
Anyone who knows. Anyone who's known Jimmy Mack as long as we have knows that.
Bit of jealousy.
So Jimmy, Richard Ashcroft's right up there for you.
Oh, he's my number one.
Right, tell him about how good he was. Kick him down.
Mick, I've seen him 15 times. I've seen Oasis a few times. I mean, all these lads end up with tickets and we can't get it, mate.
Well, can I just say, if you are... Did Simon Moran have all to do with it?
No.
Oh, I'm going to say, if you're a Warrington fan, then there's some good news coming.
No, Craig waited on a phone line for 3 days to get him. He's that big.
When you're the know, you know it. And by the way, I've just been offered Dublin and I've got a few more shifts going, so I'll try and share the love.
I'm just looking at Jimmy's face. Do we need to get some Kleenex, some tissues? Because
Jimmy's actually going to watch Human League tonight in Manchester. So
Electric Light.
His levels are where I'm at.
Well, that's interesting.
Spoke about someone who has no idea about Jeff Lynn.
Because that's interesting because I interviewed Brian Noble yesterday, and that's where he's going tonight. He's going. Yeah, big massive ELO fan. They were doing Mr. Blue Sky.
The famous John Bastian's a big fan of ELO.
Is he going as well?
Massive.
Oh well, interestingly. By the way, just a bit of fun. If you're watching early, we are going to get onto the juicy stuff like the 14-team Super League, Jake Connor, Sean Wayne, England, and Danny McGuire. Wow, do not deviate. It's all coming up on an explosive, probably the biggest bang of a show We've been saving this one. All the ammunition, it's ready to go. Me and Craig are sat on the TNT. Got a secret red button under the table. We're going to press it and we're going to go boom. But I forgot where I was now.
Well, go straight for the. You've obviously wanted to ask me. You can ask.
No, but it was good to have a bit of a catch up. But yeah, I'll hold my hand up. Craig has said a few times, Michael, sure, big news. And I've had to say, sorry, I'm in Sicily, I'm in Italy, I'm in Rome.
We've covered that.
I'm in Albufeira. All right, Jimmy. Just because
I've got a gig to get to. I want to wear it.
Right, we're going to start. Here we go. So, I'll read it word for word. That was posted at 6 o'clock on Monday on the Castleford Tigers website. Danny McGuire departs Castleford Tigers. Following a board meeting earlier today, Castleford Tigers can confirm the departure of Danny McGuire as head coach. Chairman Martin Jepson, he had this to say: it has been a real challenging season, but in particular, the results and performances in last week's game, which was last Thursday against the Huddersfield Giants, were hugely disappointing for me and everybody involved with the club. The board felt that a change of direction was therefore needed. I would like to put on record his thanks, that's Martin Jepson's thanks to Danny, for his hard work at the club over the past 2 years, both as an assistant to Craig Lingard and as a head coach, and he wishes Danny McGuire the very best in the future. So the statement ended with Chris Chester, who had recently joined from Lee Leopards as director of rugby. He's now going to take over as head coach until the end of the season, when I kind of guess Castleford are going to be able to reassess where they are, both on and off the field. And obviously, no secret, there is a large number of former coaches currently out of work, so that, they've certainly got a number of options, exciting options available. But just first, there's nobody, I say this with real strength and conviction. We've been doing these shows since 2019. We've been doing these shows 6 years. I know in the past we've done them every week, we've done them intermittently, but during that 6 years, I don't think I've ever come across anybody in this sport who has had a connection, an affinity between two people, and I'm meaning you, Craig, and Danny McGuire. I remember 6 years ago, one of the first shows we did when we were at the old Yorkshire radio studios outside Ellen Road, and you'd be running late, or Sam would be running late, and I'd end up gorging in the subway. But I remember 6 years ago, you always, very, very open-hearted, everything, on your chest. You've always mentioned how close you were to Danny McGuire, the first ever player you signed, to see him go through all that success to Leeds, to now starting this amazing, what we hope is going to be a good coaching journey. Obviously, this is a massive setback. This is probably the money shot for the show, Craig. Tell us your own honest thoughts first and foremost before we get into, I know you were with Danny yesterday, we can talk about that later, but when you got that call from Danny McGuire at 2:30 on Monday, and he said, this is what they've done, Craig, please, raw, your honest thoughts. Did you see this coming? How much of a shock is this to you?
Right, let me start from the start. First of all, when Danny got the chance to go as assistant at Cass, after his journey at Ulcar had finished, and he bought into going there to further his coaching career. He actually got offered the first team coach's job then. I'm sure that's out there anyway. He felt he wasn't ready, felt he needed to do some more coaching, some more all the stuff that the coaches do, let's just say. All of a sudden the opportunity came. I probably thought Danny had to take that role. I thought, that's me as a person. I think if somebody gets an opportunity in life, you don't have any regrets, and if you give it your best shot. I had said to Danny all the way through that journey, win or lose, I think he'll be the best thing that's ever happened to him. That's what I said to him on day one, and I'll say it on the last day. You can learn loads more in defeat, Mick, and whatever you gauge. This will stick with Danny forever. He'll make him more determined. He'll decide whether he wants to be cutthroat of the coach's world. I met him yesterday when the first text come through. He was angry, and I mean as angry as I've ever heard him. He didn't see it coming. I certainly didn't see it coming. I probably wouldn't have seen this one coming if I'm speaking honest, because I haven't been as close to it probably the last 6 or 8 weeks as what I usually would. I've let Danny go on and do his own journey, and that's not been with me sharing that. Usually I'm probably in there and I can feel something and I could say, oh, you know, Joe fills me in with the social media side of things, and I didn't feel a massive Danny out campaign. I don't know if you lads did. I didn't feel like usually you'll put social media on, and if it's a bad defeat, you're going to get the boot. It's horrendous. We all know what social media does. It allows people to have voices, and the negative people come good, such as yourself, Mick. So in that aspect, it was absolute disbelief of Danny, I think, and then it was anger. And then I look back at what should he be angry? Well, Martin, who come afterwards, Castleford, it would have been Mark Grattan originally. Danny Wilson, massive on what he did for Danny. Give him a fantastic opportunity, let me say that. To bring a young coach in at that age and offer him a first team job was a massive gamble on every part. Danny'd done 4 years as an assistant. It's not usually, probably need a lot more, do you get me? Maybe some academy, maybe assistant, maybe third, second. I think it were a fantastic thing what they did to give him a chance. So I'm going to say that on record. You've always got to thank that. Do I think that Danny were told that, I'm not going to use the word a 3 or 5 year plan and you couldn't have any defeats, but it was a 3 or 5 year plan. And I thought that everybody at the club, including the fans, was aware that this were going to be a tough gig. Especially first, I thought probably 2 years. When Danny first went in, it was going to be developing, we saw the emergence of Fletcher Rooney. And by the way, Danny's had of all the messages he's got, he was really emotional about, I hope I'm not sharing it, but Fletcher's dad had sent something to him personally, which had a real effect on him. I said to Danny, remember them forever when people are talking about what influence you've had on them. So I think that what the journey was to develop this squad, and I think what's happened is the same what happens in sport, the pressure from all accounts. I thought about this. I thought, when would Martin or the board, let's use the word board. If you use the word board, it means it's not on any individual.
Correct.
Even though we know it'll come down to 2 calls. That's what happens, if I'm being honest. You can have 8 people in the board. There's only 1 or 2 going to make that call. Yeah. Martin being one, and there'll be what's been inputted to Martin. So I thought about what did they expect, and I realised now, and I'm going to say this as honest as I can. I don't know if you lads thought this, I've never seen anybody as honest as Danny in after game interviews. Brutal. I keep thinking, should I have said to him, just dilute a bit of that, Dan, because you're that much of a winner. You're talking about one of the greatest players to ever play it. People didn't realise. Yesterday somebody said to me, I didn't know Danny had that in him. That. I said, mate, he had it in him because he was so gifted. I don't think there's any player I've had with a will to win like Danny McGuire. I'm on about pool, golf, to anything he does. Rugby, aggression. So Danny seeing a defeat, probably for 10 weeks I've watched it in his face and I thought, I think Cass tried to help him with that and said, look, you probably need to handle that a bit better. What that were doing, in my humble opinion, Danny after the game saying, I've got this bunch of players, I'm trying my best, we're all giving it everything, we're just not good enough. Well, where does the pressure come off the fans then straight away? They're not going to blame Danny. Yeah. They're going straight for the board saying, why are you not giving Danny the money? So Danny Wilson would have got his arse teared thousands of times, which I know he has. Then they miss Danny Wilson out and they could be saying, well, once you go to the owners, and if Martin's put in, let's say Martin's put 2 million quid in, the last thing he wants is negativity, because if I'm putting 100 grand a month into a club and fans are going, why are you putting more money in? Why have you not invested this? I'm thinking, whoa. And I think that's what's happened. I think that's what happened, and I think it's pressure. I think they could have sold it to the fans better originally. They should have said to the fans, are you all buying into a 3 or 5 year plan? Yeah. Is there anybody in this room who is not prepared if Danny finishes second from bottom? Are you going to try and sack Danny? Maybe Danny should have asked them questions publicly. Yeah. This is a 3 to 5 year journey. Please, and we've all heard it. We're all big people. How many times have we heard in any sport when they say, oh, he's got as much time as he wants and 3 weeks later he's sacked? We know this happens. we know Danny got the job on. People said Lingard doing a great job. If we all be honest.
Yeah.
With what he was working with last year.
Working with. So I suppose it happened then, and it's happened again now. I think the Cas fans and fans of Rugby League and everybody probably need to, I think Martin and the board need to sell. There's so much pressure, Mick, on numbers coming through the gate, and social media plays such a part now in them decisions. I'm telling you, I've never heard, this would not have happened 10 years ago without the social media. Now, if I got 5 CEOs here, they are getting input social media into them. What's the mood of the fans? How is it on the new signing? They're even now dropping signings out 3 weeks before to test the water before they sign them, because they're seeing what the fans are doing. I know that top club did that a couple of months ago, and I was like, oh my god, they're just testing water.
I will hold my hand up. I won't name the club, but a club has in the past said, can you leak that we're potentially signing this player? And that's at Championship League 1 level. So you're right, Craig, it happens. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I put it out, are looking at, and you might get 12, 13 comments, and you're right, they are looking at that reaction. We're in very sort of almost Black Mirror-esque times when clubs are actually, expanding that sphere of influence outside the boardroom. Well, what's Joe Bloggs saying about we're looking at this,
Which I find...
It's astonishing.
I can't get it. I'd never be able to understand that.
No, it's
I think you're a big person. You have to make them calls. I think, and that's my challenge with Cassis. I would say to them as a tip: go and take the new coach, the new organisation, and sit with the fans and be brutally honest and say, listen, we have got the recruiting probably wrong since 18. There's no quick fix. We put players in. We haven't got enough youngsters coming through the academy to stop that happening. They haven't. Simple as that. They've probably got 2 or 3 where they could shove them in. I think there's not enough. Usually a top club will have 6 or 7 of them every year. That means they're on, I call panic buying. And you're putting a lot of fillers in, which players are fillers. He'll do a job for 15 months, he'll do a job for 15. That's what happened at Castleford last. I think Lee Radford did it. Lee Radford came in and made 9 signings. It's just happened sporadically for 5 or 6 years. They need some stability. Yeah. Somebody's got to stop and say, no, these are 4-year deals, stop this shit, and let's plan something. Now, I challenge Cass, my friend Danny Wilson, Chesney, all of them, Martin, the board, to come out with that. And the next coach deserves to know that, and that needs to be public. And if it's the other way, I'm going to say to Jimmy, you lose 25%, you lose 75% of your games, you're gone. There's no wrong with that. Be honest, but you've got to be transparent with that.
I think that's the bit that probably hurt me the most when I saw the headline, when Mick messaged it through, and I thought you were joking. I thought, shut up, mate, in a nice way. I was laughing, saying
no,
just clickbait.
He does get a few wrong.
We don't. But when I saw it, that's the bit that's shocking, because we've been in meetings multiple times with Danny Wilson, Danny Matt. We spoke to all of them, and throughout every single meeting over the last 2 years, it's been a let's project, let's do a 3-year plan to 5-year. Let's pick out what they call it. They've got an Excel player pathway development plan or something. They've got a word for it, which obviously Fletch, Jensen, all these lads that are coming through are on this pathway, and they're getting things on. They're getting them a bit of a loan agent. Sheffield, Akeem's now gone to Workington. We've done the bit of this, bit of at-home training, and it's all to build a core of young players that excels in 2-3 years' time. We've heard nothing. I'll say I've heard very little different from them, but publicly that's not been said as much as you've said there. That's the bit that's publicly not been said. I think that had to be described to the fans much more clear, much more honestly. No, we've got these 2 lads. We think Fletcher's going to be this player. We think Jensen's going to be this good. We think this player might take a bit longer, but we've got, and just be more transparent with the fans, because the fans wanting wins now, as we know, as we've covered with you at Bradford, Mick, when we said where are the famous Bradford youngsters, and they're signing Wacker Blake and Conrad Hurrell and all these 31-year-olds that you don't quite understand, but it's winning now. Where the Cass ones, they should have said 3-4 years time, we've got plans for all these players. We want our average age at the moment anyway, regardless of these players are coming through, I think it's youngest in the league. I think it's like 24, 25 years old, so it's the youngest in the league. And we've also got youngsters coming through. We're not going to win now every week, lads. When you're watching some games, it won't make sense all the time because they're all learning. And I think that had to be smashed into the fans miles more and say, you know what, we've had a great game from this 22-year-old today. That's exciting. Imagine him once he's 25, 100 plus games in. And you build that momentum of the fans going, it's coming. But that's not been thing. And they've just explained week on week wins, week on week losses. And I think that's tied into the fan side of the
but
fan
still,
pressure.
Joe, but still, we didn't feel any pressure. I think this is what's shocked Danny and shocked us as fans. Danny's not once said to me on my life, I better be careful here. Danny obviously was.
There has
never
been
thought.
more and more on Twitter over the last couple of weeks of not necessarily aimed at Danny, but the club itself.
That's what I'm saying.
But Danny's been mentioned in there. I can't remove any. There is a small nucleus of fans that have said Danny out.
Which they would do.
Every club.
You could say that about Pep's won 5 titles at City.
But the pressure every week on them for this. There's about 100 comments every week of fans saying what's happening, we don't understand, like why are we losing, it looks a bit clueless here, what's the game plan here on this one. I just think they've got the transparency bit wrong, and that pressure on the fans which you've described, that obviously Martin's felt why he's made this call to make a change. That's where they've got it wrong.
Could have been more avoidable, could it?
I'd go further. I'd go a little further in saying Danny didn't see it coming. It's happened. He will learn from it. There's anger now. It'll turn into a bit of emotion, and then it'll turn into people like Danny in life just go straight forward. I know there's been a few things said either way in anger. That's personal stuff. That's a natural reaction sometimes. You know, if I think I'm wrong, mate, I'm going to say I'm going to come for you. You know, I'm going to have my say. I think the club have got to look at themselves massively. Danny's journey will go on. Danny's got to decide, does he come back? Does he want to? He told me yesterday, one thing for sure, I want to coach. I love coaching. I spoke to quite a few of the players a bit after, which is what we do anyway. And he definitely never lost a changing room, so that can't come out. Usually, little shit houses start going, actually, that's usually players who don't get picked.
Yeah.
We know the score. I'll not mention the play we laughed like out last night, and that's not laughing at Danny, but we laughed at how that happens. You know, little creaks, little 2 days. Like, yeah, to be fair, hey, this training's different. Hey, it feels great. It's all doing to get into the team next week, and then you get dropped in 3 weeks. I can remember Lasty. I always remember Lasty when Rathers left. Lasty gets job. They beat. I think Leeds. They beat the famous one at home. I don't know anyway. And Lasty, they made a tunnel, and Lasty come dancing through the tunnel, and all the players were hugging him, and it went back to the board. Give Lasty job. He's amazing. 16 weeks later,
gone.
Every one of them players to a pay, bang.
Yeah.
Now let's address the elephant again. That's Cass since Powley. We've had 4 coaches. Is that since 20? Or when did Powley leave? 19, 20?
Yeah.
So we've had Lee Radford, Andy Last.
There was someone in between there. I saw it on Twitter the other day. I can't remember his name. I think there were another interim.
You've got Craig Lingard and Danny McGuire, 4.
Yeah, I know there 4, but there's 5. Yeah, there is somebody. Yeah, you're right. I'm trying to, which you bad, but anyway, I'm sure Sam can have a look at that. So there's obviously something wrong. I think it's easy what's wrong. Again, when people ask me, could Cass do an OKR? They did do an OKR before OKR. They did it in 14. The problem with doing a Hull KR now is Hull KR have got serious...
Oh, Wardy did an interim as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he's got serious investment. KR have got seriously... Martin's on his own at the moment pumping the money in that, you know, that's... I know, listen, I can't imagine the level he's at, but I know how it feels when you're pumping it in. KR have got a board of 4 or 5 people with serious intentions. KR was spending cap and the marquee. So KR could pay a player off. Hey, Jimmy's not playing well. Bang, you're Cass can't do that. You haven't seen many we haven't seen many severances because they probably can't afford to do a severance, because Martin will have to go, sever them 4 off, here's 200 grand.
Yeah.
So it's quite scary, isn't it, as an owner, like you think, you bloody hell, there's obviously something wrong. If your club has had 4, that Joe's saying 5 coaches in that period, 5 year, whatever it is.
Well, there's no stability.
There's something is deeper than that. So you could say, can we bring in somebody, let's say you brought in a super coach, let's say a Willie Peters or a Matty Pete. They wouldn't want that job.
No.
Whoever takes that job, it's usually somebody who's trying to get back in the game, or a Danny McGuire or a Lingard who did well at Batley and got a reputation of. So you look at the scenarios of that job. Let's be honest, the top 6 coach in the country is not, and this is what, and please don't, I'm going to tell you straight this, we know in this room, when they've tried to get players in, and I've been part of that, we took Jack Brown, George King, Corey Hall, all these players, along with what signed anyway. It's hard sell, and that's being honest. It's not easy no more to say to Jack Brown, do you fancy KR? He had 4 offers. He loved meeting Cass, but he was never going to come to Cass. George King, exactly the same thing. The offer were great. They offered more. They did the right thing. They sold. At the moment, with Cass being where they are, how do you get that, like Brownley's 24, 25, how do you get a top young prop like Brownley to come here instead of going and to commit to the grand final?
To commit to what is going to be a lengthy rebuilding process.
Yes, and so George King might have looked and gone, can I make a big influence, or do I spend the next 3 or 4 years at a club? So all these things are pretty tough. That's the decision on bringing Chris Chester in. I would have been a part of that. I got asked me, anyway, whatever. I would have thought that were a very good thing to do, because Chesney had such a book of what he did at Leeds, amazing job. He's gone to Leeds, he's turned it around. He was the best at Wakefield at bringing overseas signings in. Again, let's go back to that. Overseas signings, you've got 2 groups of this, by the way. You've got Steve Mills, who you'd have to say this year's bordering on genius. How he's got these Queensland Cup players in the last 18 months to do what they're doing is beyond me. Chesney's done that as well. And then you've got bringing high earners over. Cass can't bring in high earner over. Do you get me? Cass, somebody were on about Dufty. Let's say Dufty's on what? 180, 200 grand?
Yeah.
Plus.
Jai, Bevan, KR have got 5, Iku. Their Hargreaves will be on 250. Cass are not going to pay anybody above 140 grand. Let's all be honest. They're not going to be able to quick fix this with absolute. Here we go, boys. Here's 6 NRL players who are going to make a difference next week. Yeah. They've managed to get the guy on loan who's gone to KR, the prop.
Yeah, no.
Because there was a deal where they didn't want him to go to another club in England, so all KR more or less brokered the deal with Cass to say, quick, get him in here till end of the year,
and then he'll come
with us.
Yeah.
So I think again it's the big picture thing, isn't it, lads? Everybody, it's got somebody at Cass has got to put this, and they should have. I've noticed clubs we've called for it for years started doing podcasts. Every club started to do podcasts. We said it for years, didn't we? The social media interaction. I think they need to do that. I think they need to do that internally and have some proper, not just, do you know what, when you put somebody on and you go, everything's great and it's been amazing this year and we're looking forward. How many fans actually listen to that? When actually you're better off having a proper debate, and maybe bringing a fan on and saying, asking me 10 questions live on camera, so he has to say, so what is here, where do we, you know what I mean, these questions.
Totally agree.
So in reflection, I think Danny's been let down enormously. I don't think the bad people at Cass, no chance, not having that. I've dealt with them for too long. I don't think the bad people intentions. I think they've just made, they've sold something which they've not been able to deliver. Looking at Danny, and let's look at Danny's side, he'll have 10 things he can get better. 100%. And I'll try and share one with you, which he'll probably tell me off, but it is what it is. I think that Danny's never been one for, what word do you use in modern way of schmoozing? Yeah. Is it schmoozing?
Schmoozing's as good for kissing ass.
There we go.
I think. Playing the game.
So, he's...
Playing the game of what? We're trying to be serious.
So he's never been one for that.
He's never had to do it as a player.
Now, that's what somebody said to me last night, Jimmy. Great point. Exactly what somebody I trust said to me last night. He said he has never had to do that. Why would he? Why would he do? So Danny wouldn't know. Now, I when Tony Smith were at Warrington, every Wednesday before he picked the team, he'd have a conversation with Simon Moran about the team. And Simon would be the first person he shared that with. Simon deserved that. If I'm putting £1 million a year, I deserve to know the team is better than
yes, 100%.
That meant Simon were buzzing because it's, oh bloody hell, Joel Monaghan's been dropped. It was brilliant. I know at least 6 or 8 other people who do that practice. Gary Etherington famously wouldn't get too much involved, but he would. He'd have coffees with coaches. It'd be I think because Danny Wilson was there, and it was Martin, and then I don't think Danny got I think that's something he'd take forward.
Right.
Matty Pete's quite close to Cridlatinski. I don't think they go for, they don't drink them lads, but I don't think that. But I think there's a constant partnership in what's going off at the club. If you watch the Wenger one, Arsene Wenger did a thing recently. The chairman he had for 17 years, they were best mates. They travelled Europe together. When I watched it and read the book, I'm like, oh my good God, this is your best mate who's the club. So I think that bit with Danny, he never really got to know Martin, that Martin never got to know Danny, and they would have seen how passionate Danny was on the other side of things. And I think I don't think he'll change. I don't know if he will change. He looked at me yesterday with them eyes when I said it, as if to say, Danny will see it. As long as I do my job, and I'm very good at what I do, that's all you should want.
Yeah.
I don't need to do that.
Yeah.
I am who I am.
Yeah.
In today's society, I don't know whether you can do that.
Yeah. You shouldn't have to do those things, but and it's hard because we're involved in rugby league, and I'm sure other sports are the same. But it seems, because rugby league is so short-sighted, because we never know what's around the corner. Everyone gets stuck with this. There's no doubt about it. Every club needs a 5-year plan. There's never been a successful club in any sport that hasn't implemented a solid long-term plan. And every club knows they need to do it. But what clubs do is go, right, we're going to have this plan, and then they don't get the immediate success, and then they start panicking about the knock-on effects, so they abandon the plan. And then Leeds have started a 5-year plan 5 years in a row. Casa have been doing it. So they get stuck in this. And what bothered me about the statement was it had the Huddersfield result in there. And I'm like, I don't see how that can be remotely relevant to the long-term future of a club, a result in a league match against a team who finally started to hit a bit of form, when Castleford Tigers were big favourites to finish bottom of the league at the start of the season, and no one could have predicted the shit show at Salford. So it doesn't align to me. It's the same sort of like short-term reactive management. And don't get me wrong, I don't know what their longer term. They might have gone, right, well, we're not seeing any progress in our longer term thing that we hope, so we're pulling the plug. But I think, like you said, Craig, it's a shame, because I think we've all learned at some point doing what we do. There's so much gameplay. There's so many ulterior motives. There's so many people who you think one thing and then next thing something else happens. It's going to be hard for someone like Danny, who knows who he is as a person and he's been extremely successsul being how he is and who he is. But sometimes, he's
authentic, Danny. He's very authentic.
And being genuine. But what you're saying is, don't be. We know some players, because it happened the other week, didn't it? Somewhere where someone behaves in a way and you're like, I'm not surprised. Because they've got him in. And I don't think Danny's gone behind him. And he don't have to become a snake. He don't have to become a slimy game player who'll suck up to someone because he wants to extend his contract by a year. But he might have to add in about how it works and having those relationships.
That's both ways.
Totally.
I think that's why yesterday I felt that should have been both ways.
The thing I'm surprised at, I'm thinking about what the fans have said, and this is not critical towards anyone. This is just the fan. I'm speaking as a commentary effort, hopefully, of what the Cas fans think. The main issue that all the fans have is the signings. If we break it down, they said a couple of on-field ones. They blame Danny for a bit of the tactical things, but again, that's every loss. Fans know best in terms of tactics, but
fundamentally, it's the tools he's got to work with.
But the majority of the fans pick out the signings that they've had. As we said, we've had 5 years, but this last year, another 4 or 5 that have gone within halfway through the season already. I think they've lost 3 or 4, haven't they? A few of the Papua New Guinean lads have gone. He's not a new signing, but did they extend him last year or the year before? And then he's now.
Well, Luke Cooley, there's quite a few in there.
But that was the last year. So the last 2 years they've had the signings. The thing they've not blamed Danny for, this is the bit that's come, is the signings. If they went, you know what, he's not. I think a bit of that. No offence to Craig, it seemed like last year when Craig got moved on, it was a bit like, we're struggling to get the signings in with Craig, whatever. But that and didn't make sense. Like I said, it was very harsh on Craig. It is what it is. But that. The signings this year have gone bad again, but they've not blamed Danny for the signings. They've blamed him for these on-field things, which, again, average age, youngest in the league. They're trying to bring through a project. It just all doesn't add up. That's the
Joe,
bit that...
If Danny Wilson is the head of recruitment, the head of everything...
Well, he's CEO now, CEO.
Yeah, but wait, look, I want to take us back in the TARDIS back to January in that pre-season game. I bumped into John Bastian last week, and I posted it in the group. After 20 minutes of watching Wakefield versus Castleford and Luke Gale's testimonial, I said to John Bastian, dear God, big problems. And we were talking all about it during that game. I know it was only pre-season game 1, but
we were all worried.
We were all worried about the size, the speed. You know, they were just losing. And look, don't get me wrong, I tipped Wakefield to finish in the top 6 in the playoffs, and Wakefield are proving me right with a fantastic season. I did, Jimmy.
The bottom line is Castleford were massive favourites to come bottom. And the last thing I'll say is, I feel that most problems at clubs with planning is having unreal expectations. So how can everybody in the game think Castleford are going to do very well not to come bottom, and then you still lose your job even if that isn't happening? And why do clubs who think... I remember a couple of years ago a team that were like, we're going to be top 4, and I'm like, you've not a chance in hell of being top 4. So they're then expecting something. It was Cass. I didn't want to say, but it was. They were expecting something which no one in the right mind would see how that could happen, barring a minor miracle. So if expectations are unrealistic, then you're setting yourself up for unhappiness and failure. But that might not be fair. And these are the problems that people lose their jobs all the time, and there'll be numerous reasons, and a lot of them we won't know. But I just never understand it when a club and a coach can be performing in a way which seems to be better than most would expect, and if players are happy and there's no real reason for the jeopardy and the understanding, I just don't understand it. Because guess what? It almost always, the next one, you're slipping further. And it's very rarely that something's going wrong and someone goes, bang, pull the trigger, get him in, then it all rosy. Because Leeds have done it 5 times. Castleford have done it numerous times. Man United have done it 5 times since, like, Fergie. And all the top clubs in NRL, long-term plans. The clubs that have done well in England over the years, long-term plans, and persevere with young players, persevere with coaches, and don't be so trigger happy. But it just happens all the time, and I find it bewildering.
But you're not going to get Martin Jepson coming out and, I posted something the other day and I had Castleford fans, you're normally a gobshite, we don't agree with you, but we agree spot on. I basically said Martin should have come out and effectively, I used the word gaslighting. Maybe that's wrong. Some Castleford fans agreed, they understood where I'm coming from. But what should have happened with all this is, and I agree, Jimmy, and we'll go back onto Danny Wilson and Joe's point in a minute, but Martin should have just come out. You did, we'll get on in a minute. Martin, if we're being honest, Martin should have come out and said, I'm the only person here now with money after the Fultons have gone. He, like you say, Craig, we don't know. You just threw a ballpark figure. He could be putting in 100 grand a month to keep it going.
It'll be more.
We know from speaking to Super League owners, you mentioned Hull KR, those owners, those ownership groups, it's the same in the Championship. They are putting money in hand over fist to keep the clubs going because they don't attract the investment, they don't attract the fans to pay for what's out there on the field. But I just feel if Martin had come out and said from day one, I've just had to spend X amount on a big screen, X amount on doing the ground up, putting those plastic seats on the crumbling terraces, etc., just so they could remain in Super League, you're going to have 2 or 3 years of pain because I've had to put in £1 million in this crumbling stadium in infrastructure so we can get the grade A and we can remain in the Super League. Who's with me? But there's been none of that. It's all been a bit of smoke and mirrors. Like, yes, we've got the big screen, I'm investing in the club. But like you say, going back to Joe's point, you look at the recruitment, no disrespect, but Zach Sini, Judah Rimbu, these players have been like paraded as star NRL players. I remember doing my Bradford Castleford Challenge Cup commentary notes and I'm looking at these supposedly NRL players. I think it was Zach Sini, 3 appearances for Parramatta, one of the Papua New Guineans. He was in an NRL team, but he'd not made any NRL appearances. So you look on the website, and I was like, they are gaslighting, almost hoodwinking the fans. We are signing NRL quality players, but the truth is, some of the players that Castleford have got. Craig.
No, I've got it because you said the hoodwinking. They're not. I promise you, on my life, Martin buying that club hasn't tried to hoodwink. That bloke could have been sold as club. Let me finish.
I'm not saying he's done it intentionally. No. But that is as the time.
I've not seen a false sell. I think they're telling you what they are. I don't think anybody said this guy's cost us 300 grand. He's a I've never heard the word marquee. Everybody knows.
I didn't say they'd use the word marquee.
Right. The signings they've made, everybody knows they are people who are looking for a chance in this country. Every one of them.
I think most
it's opportunity. Every one of them, and even the players they brought in. Let's look at the back line. Innes and Lewis Senior. KR didn't offer on Louis. Innes come from having a little thing at Wakey, Huddersfield, didn't renew it. Sam Wood, KR, a lot of them have been put together because of opportunities not happening somewhere else.
Yeah.
This is where you're at. What should have been, like I said, the only thing I think, Martin would have been given that club. There's been no investment gone into Cass, let's tell the truth. Martin's took a club on that. There's been no investment in the business plan for 20 years. It's renowned that Jack Fulton put the money in initially. There wasn't nothing in. Mark Grattan run a book. He tried to run it on a level so he didn't have to put in, which meant you didn't get new benches, you didn't get new windows, you didn't get new stadium, you didn't get new facilities. It's the same. If you go to Cass, it's the same walk for 20 years.
Probably
that should have been called out years ago. Somebody should have said, we're not making any improvements to the facilities, we're not making any improvements to the training ground. It was crazy. Thinking about it, they banked £500,000, 750,000 Challenge Cup year when they had that brilliant year. That was put in, so again, there was no investment. That was just kept for it was called the rainy day pot. When COVID come along, it were brilliant because it were used to facilitate that. But if you've got a business, you've got to regularly put money in. I think that's what's happened. They're the things, I think, honesty. Martin's probably thinking every night, I do believe.
He's regretting it.
He's probably thinking, I did this. I think the backstory with Martin is he used to go on there as a kid. His mum, thought the world. It's a homely feel for Marty. You're not be thinking that in 5 years when you're 3.5 million in your pension plan and your kids. This is what happens. Unless the club gets investment now, you'll need 5 people to share that load in the next 5 years. I'm telling you, and that's why they make these changes. Danny McGuire would be a great way to get people investing. Just using Danny's name in the future. So I think another crazy thing, thinking if you're going to get investors, Danny McGuire's name will carry anywhere in the world. They're going to do it another way. Martin will have to get 4 or 5 investors, but I promise you now, Martin will be sat there thinking, that'd have been a terrible decision with Danny. I've never seen any, have you ever sacked anybody, mate? Tell the truth.
No.
Have you?
Not anything remotely like this level. Yeah.
Unfortunately for me, Dad made me do it as a kid, and then I had my own business with nearly 100 employees, so it was a thing. It's horrific. You don't sleep for 3 weeks, and it can be the smallest job in the world. You look up to somebody and say, it's horrific. So that would have been horrific decision.
Well, I know Jimmy didn't admit to it, but if you watched his smartwatch, because he was sat facing me, it said his Deliveroo shift starts at 12:30.
probably paddle, I think, more.
But yes. No, Craig, look, you've run successful businesses. I've never sacked anyone, neither has Joe.
Terrific.
Give us this a quick...
It's just terrific. You're friends with him. You're going to go up and say, excuse me, just let you know I'm probably going to make a call here, and it's not going to be good on you, and you deliver. It's easy when you don't like him, I'll be honest with you. If you don't like him, it's pretty easy. You're not for me. It's not personal, you're just not for me. This is the other one where you like him, it's horrific. Absolutely horrific.
Do you think Martin was on
I think it's been hard for Chesney, Martin, Danny Wilson, all of them. All of them. But let's be brutally honest with this. It'd have been one or two who've made that call. Don't fizz it about and do the shit house. That'll be one or two people. And ultimately, Martin has to stand on that. Martin has to stand on it. He'd have had the final call. It's his money. Chris Chester would have had a big call on it. There's no doubt that would have been. I don't think Chris Chester went into that job for him not to have a great relationship with Danny McGuire. I think Chesney went in and tried everything to have a great relationship with Danny. I think that if I watched it a couple of weeks ago, they were sharing things. I was watching their eyes. I went, wow, that looks good. Chesney's next to him. We started to develop this friendship. I don't think it'll be easy for anybody. Chesney's made it clear that he doesn't want the job, which is what a lot of people are saying. Chesney's saying, I don't want the... We've heard that before. If I'm being honest, how many times we heard we don't want the job, and 4 weeks later
they've got it.
Richard Agar, Leeds famous Richard, did he come in? He said, don't want this Leeds job. I've got the director of football. I've got a job for life. And then he took temporary charge, and that the rest is history. It's happened 1,000 times. That make the time of it, Salford. So they want some good news with new. Do you get me? Have you thought about that one? Mm-hmm. Do you agree with that one?
I don't know.
No comment. So I'd say that Salford, if the week they're going to do it, it's usually before they think they're going to get 2 points. So there's a bit of good news going in. I feel sorry for all of them. I think they're all good people. I've known Chesney for 10, 15 years. I've known Danny Wilson closely now for the last 3 years. I met Martin 4 or 5 times. Looks a real good bloke. I do think Martin's, because he's working in London, he's not on the shop floor a lot. He's trusted to see other people, and I think sometimes unfortunately, you have to be on the shop floor and feel everything and see things with your own eyes. When you're putting your money in, I want to be seeing with my own eyes what's going off. And I think that it's been handled. I've never known something come from the offside as much.
I must confess,
I didn't smell anything. Matt Shaw never hunted me down.
First time ever, to be fair to your dad, you normally make a call.
Easy.
A month before most things happen, and this is probably going to happen, and you can feel it. And this is the first time ever. I think you probably had less clue than even me. I probably would have guessed it before you would have. It would have.
Yeah, not a clue. So the players, you get a sniff, you get a smell on the CEO. I spoke to Danny Wilson twice a week for last thing. Danny never said to me that were ever going to be a problem. Spoke to Chesney, never said. So I would say whatever's happened in that meeting they've had, something's been said that I've obviously might have said it 2 weeks before, and today we need to look at the situation, and then it's happened. Again, I think it's all about the planning, what we said originally at the start. I think it needs to be, you can't keep doing this with coaches. You can't keep bringing people in. It's ridiculous. So Danny McGuire, let me make a statement here. Danny McGuire will go on to be a top coach. Whether that's as a one and having all that, or whether it's going into a top club as a number 2. So the Libriers, do we call it the Libriers role?
Yeah.
That. I think that's Danny's decision. He loves coaching. There's not one person will say anything about his coaching. It's 100%. He's as honest as days long. Somebody, a couple of things somebody said. I said, mate, Danny is as honest as the days long. He's as, that straightforwardness and the way he is, direct. Players have always asked for that, but I don't know if they really want it sometimes. Have you ever heard that saying? Just give me it straight. I think so. In the day you might say, I've finished with you then. It's all over. Look, that's a bit harsh. Well, you want it straight. Do you get me? I don't know how many players actually do want that.
Rather than going round the houses.
There's no one. Have you ever known anybody not be accused like Danny of being straight? I think them interviews me. I used to sit there after for Danny's interview when they got beaten. I used to think, "I was Danny. I was."
Oh, he was a journalist's dream because he was giving 5 minutes. You've got some.
Yeah, you know it. They were all queuing up. You can see it because they know Danny's going to deliver the most brutal assessment of his players and the club and himself. I think he was very good last time. I don't know if you noticed. He said, "I need to look at myself, and the coaching staff need to look at themselves, and behind the scenes we need to look at it." Maybe that what line they don't like. Thinking about it, the first time he went, "We're going to look," and I thought, "Oof, that's Danny's been even more honest than he is." So I think Danny will go on to something so special because he's a winner. He's such a winner. Danny McGuire's been in my company since he was 17-year-old. He's been around my family. Always will be around my family. Always will. Thing is, if I could help him in when we have our chats, and we didn't get into it yesterday. I just think he needs to decide what. I think if Dan, a top coach like him, imagine what he can tell you as a player, what he can see. Imagine having that into a club. I think, and I'm going to say this, I hope he don't get me shot. Danny found it frustrating when players can't. The Roy Keane, do you get me? They read Roy Keane's books, and they said he was that frustrated at Sunderland and Ipswich. He couldn't believe they can't knock a 5-yard ball and pass and move and do things. Do you think there's a bit of that where Danny's gone in and gone, holy shit?
Yeah, this is what I'm working with.
This is just on a level. And Danny's had been, and that's the one thing he probably couldn't say. I'm not used to this.
Yeah.
We train at top level. They don't drop a ball in an hour. Here, we can't get through a set. Do you know what I mean? In games, if you listen to him after games, when he used to say, "We just did that," and it's like, why did we do? He can't work out why you can't just kick it into touch with 5 minutes to go. He can't work out why you can't complete a set. He thinks he must think that's the most. What are we doing? We can't just do a simple game plan. Yeah. You get me?
Yeah, no, I understand.
And I thought Roy Keane famously came out with it and still does. How he said,
"What's the big one is though? Where did they go from here?"
Well, it's obvious where they go.
Go on then.
Temporary charge, Chris Chester.
That's where
the coaching staff are staying. I didn't know that till yesterday, so the coaching staff are staying with it.
Yeah.
So that'll not change. Chesley's going to go into Danny's role temporary. If it mixing it till the end of the year, I didn't think it. Well, I thought it was just a temporary one. If it's the end of the year, that's going to give them 6 months to have a look for somebody else. So it's Chris Chester.
Yes, we know it now. What long term? I think the answer that we're saying is
Chelsea will do it till the end of the year.
The long term is Chelsea.
Do you know that? I thought it was just temporary.
No, he's doing it till the end of the year. I presume. I mean, I've not spoken to anyone personally.
I think it's a temporary charge.
Yeah, temporary, mate. It's definitely temporary.
Right. We'll get till the end of the year.
No, they've not given time frame.
There's what, 7 or 8 games to go.
Yeah.
Are you seriously expecting someone to be in that time frame?
I did. Yeah. I'll be honest with you. Yeah, I did.
Who would you put in there then, Craig?
I couldn't give you that answer because I want out of respect for my friend. I can't. I'm not prepared.
Who would you put in there, Joe?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't necessarily mean the coach. I meant as a club, the signings, the system. Like where does the club go? Because it's this. I guess the argument I had is, and this is a sad one, where's rock bottom for Cass at the moment? Where's the rock bottom? Because I think Cass have fought the Vitit twice now, and then this could be a new low. They bought Chesney in to probably sprinkle a bit of good Aussie signings, because that's the market, as we've covered 5 times. They just can't get right. Sini is the only one that's got any semblance. It's probably Arsene McKim were very good at the start of the year, but there's not many that have had any semblance of being a Super League player week in, week out, other than a bit of Simbican. Sini's been very good at centre in certain games. So, but where I think that's where they need. Where do they go? Because
well, if you've got Martin Jepson and there's only Martin Jepson alone, we know they got a grade A last season because there was the. Look, don't want to go into too much detail, but he did put money into the club. There was an investment, but Martin cannot do that every year. So Castleford won't be a grade A. They're going to be a grade B, and you do get the feeling what is rock bottom. Well, after all the money that Martin's put in, to see them finish second from bottom and only kept off bottom by the shit show at Salford, to see them go from an A to a B and slowly slide down, I think that's the realisation for Martin. Like, you know, he can't do it alone.
But,
so if he's
but make that finishing second from bottom, developing 5 young players and giving them a take, they should have stuck to. I like that plan. I've always liked that plan.
I agree, Craig. And now is the time. Now is the time for him to do it, because
it's like he wants to do that. He wants to do that, and then shit
Bradford. Yeah,
that's what I said. That's what I said 10 minutes ago. When I saying we've had this 5-year plan, they've not stuck to it. They should have celebrated every young player having a good game. That would have been my process throughout this year, saying, lads, we might not win everything, but if we get 5 good games out of 5 young players, we need to celebrate that. Like other clubs, Wigan do it every time a young Wigan player's a game, they post it everywhere. They all do it, even though Warrington don't stick to it as much. Like they still, I've not felt.
Well, Warrington have done brilliant this year with that.
Yeah, but I've not felt young players actually have that big of a love at Cass, even though behind the scenes that's the whole system. Yeah. Not love as in like celebrated. Sorry, in like social media, in terms of interviews, in terms of things saying, look,
well, there's definitely a couple there.
No, there's
Jensen, Wingley, I'm not.
Sheffield, we look at. No, I'm not commenting on that. We look after it. Fantastic players. I'm saying the club itself celebrating every little win. I've not felt that. I think they're trying to win now and sometimes forget about the vision of the young players.
Danakora had been an interesting one, so we just a little one for you. We put Danakora in as a helping him to get some legs in. Warrington weren't playing him, so we were like, oh, we've got no forwards, right? Well, Danakora came into that environment horrific. Not saying, sorry, I'll reword that. The results wouldn't have been great, so you're walking into it.
Yeah.
Dan then plays a couple of games, made a few mistakes, bit of slow on ruck, whatever, but then starts to improve. Made that half break, started to really make some yardage, and then results mattered. Dan gone. See that would. I don't think Danny, and I'm not speaking for him. I think Danny wanted to carry on some of that journey. I think that will be coming the pressure of the result, and that's when people are saying, no, you need older legs, experience. They use this word, and experience, you need this, you need that, and I think that bottom line is everything that's going to happen at Cass in the next 3 to 5 years just needs to be totally, as Joe said it, transparent. We said at the start of the show, give the fans, don't it's not misleading. I don't think it ever is intentional, but just a real debate of where they are. People say you need big signings to get the season tickets for next year. I've heard that Cass were worried about the season tickets people not renewing. They said 1,000 of the season tickets people are not coming to the ground at the moment. This is what somebody told me the other day, that they're staying away.
That's correct. The Castleford's crowds have gone from being a steady 7 they're now in.
Well, they've already paid for the ticket and they're not going. So
yeah, that's correct.
This is now again.
Well, Joe's just had to leave. I'm not sure if he's doing Deliveroo like Jimmy, but I think I've got a funny feeling he's set an alarm. I reckon
off paddle game.
Yeah, for paddle, yeah.
But like I was saying, Mick, on the transparency, I think that's going forward. I think that needs to be understood. I know people say season tickets. We mentioned that a lot of the season tickets people have not been going and this and that. So, but out of Cass, it's very hard making it, because to get the fans to come, do you need new signings, big booming signings, so there's excitement around the ground. I don't know if Cass are in a position to do that. I'll be honest, with the money they've got, I don't know whether that's going to happen, which is why I thought the 3-year, 5-year plan should have happened. Listen, best of luck to Cass. Best of luck to all them people involved at Cass. That's one of my favourite clubs in the world. I still feel passionate about Cass. Always will do. Regardless of what. My job is to supply, players to environments and to clubs. My personal thing on Danny is I'm heartbroken for him. He loved Cass, he loved the fans. He's still revered at KR. They took over the temporary and the assistant. If you see Danny at KR, the fans go mad. So I would say he'll take a bit of time out. He's already been asked. This is private, but it's not private. He's got 3 or 4 clubs that have reached out to him and said, "Do you want to come in here and do a bit of coaching and watch our environment?" And Danny wants to absorb a bit more. I think that'd be great for him. Rugby union, bit of American football, NRL. 2 English clubs, top Super League clubs, who said, "Do you want to come here and spend some time with us and watch what we do in our environment?" So big thank you for them clubs who've done that for him. That's happening in 48 hours. That's the good side of rugby league and rugby and sport. All reaching out to Dan and saying, "Come down here." He'll find out who his friends are as well. sometimes in life, mate, you have to find out who your mates are. My dad used to say, problem is you end up on one hand who were there for you, and the rest are just playing the game.
100%.
We don't. So we
from
all
experience.
From experience.
Yes.
So you'll end up with so many people. He'll find that the hard way. I think he's got a massive future in coaching, and what a great way to prove everybody wrong, isn't it?
Just on Danny, do you get the feeling he is going to take a prolonged absence from the sport?
No, he told me he can't. He said he's fixed into it.
So he could get a phone call next week from a Super League club or Championship club, potentially making a change, and he'd be ready to go full throttle. Luggage,
bag, I don't think he's going to travel. I think he'd want to be close to Louis and around his environment, but he's ready to go. Honestly, said it to me yesterday. He said I could just go now. I hope he gets to go around a few things and sees little things. He probably never got a chance to do that. He was thrust into KR director of football, assistant coach, first team coach, Cass assistant, first team coach. Probably be great for him to just, do you know what I'm saying? Just to see bang all these other ways. He'll learn loads. Listen, I'll be honest, when he told me that what had happened, my first fear, we didn't actually exchange about a month ago. I thought, is he going to say, you bastard, you persuaded me to do the job?
Did you?
No, I couldn't persuade Danny. He's got his own mind. Let me tell you that, for one. Two, did I say take it? Yes, 100%. Did I think it was amazing? Yes. Do I still think it's amazing? Yes. Did I say in a podcast 5 months ago, he'll learn more here? Whether
you did.
I think assistant, you can do 20 years, but you learn more in 12 months doing this. This is just red hot. I think he'll look back, and let's quote this one day. I think he'll write in his thing is that what happened at Cass was the best thing that could have ever happened to him, and I think he'll learn loads. Wish Cass, from this weekend, all the best. Interesting times. Well, there you go. We've started this edition of the full 80 minutes talking a little bit about what has been, I'd say, the major rugby league news this week, which of course was Danny McGuire's dismissal from the Castleford Tigers. Interesting times ahead for Castleford.